Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special BALM evening, how to achieve your attitudinal shift using the BALM 12 principles. And I invited one of our senior coaches and facilitators, Michael DeForbes, who we'll be having a conversation a little later. I would like to start by just sharing with you an overview of what we teach for the attitudinal shift. In BALM, the attitudinal shift is the foundation of everything. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. It's funny, we were just talking about it the other day, and Mike didn't even know that I was doing this workshop, and he started telling me about the attitudinal shift and people in his group talking about their attitudinal shifts. And I was like, you got to come on and we'll really talk about this. So what I'm going to do, I bet a bunch of you are already in the BALM and some of you aren't. So I'm going to just slide over the first four principles, and I'll be mentioning things from those four principles and from the 7 steps, because this is where the attitudinal shift can be found. And we'll start with a slideshow of that. And if you hear things that you've never heard of, like, what are you talking about? Don't worry. When you get into the BALM, whether you do the on-demand or you come on the 3-day retreat or you join the BALM 1-year program, whatever you do, once you're in the BALM, all of this will be how you talk, think, and work through everything that's facing you with your loved one. So we don't see what families are going through as easy at all. We've been there, and our perspective in the BALM is we want to help other families get to the other side. So that's our intention in working with you and in having any of our programs for you. So I'm going to start, as I said, we'll start with the slideshow, and then Mike and I will talk a little, and then we'll invite you all to come on the panel, and we'll have a discussion together about this. The title of this program this evening is How to Achieve Your Attitudinal Shift with the BALM 12 Principles, and I'm Beverly Buncher. I'm the founder of the BALM program. I wrote the book, created the method, and founded the Institute. And Mike DeForbes is with me, and he's been with me on this almost the whole time. And we've done a lot of good work together. He continues to do amazing with our families and in our classrooms. And I'm honored, Mike, that you're here with me this evening. So if you're new to the BALM, you may be saying, why the family? Here's what we know. The research says that the best chance for someone to get in recovery and stay in recovery is when the family comes along for the ride. More than coming along for the ride, when the family is involved and in a healthy way. And we believe that family recovery is a two-pronged approach. Get your life back and help get your loved one's life back. But it's not we who are helping get their life back. You're learning how to get your own life back, and you're learning how to help them get theirs back. What we know is that when the family gets well, the loved one has a much better chance at getting into and staying in recovery. And the attitudinal shift of the family holds the key. So where do we find this attitudinal shift? It all starts in the first 4 principles, and that's what we're going to look at this evening. Principle 1, you have a role to play in your loved one's recovery. Principle 2, change happens in stages. Your loved one can change, and so can you. Principle 3, let go without giving up or giving in. And what are we letting go of? We're letting go of control, of that obsessive need to have it go our way. And Finally, principle 4, you can be your loved one's best chance at recovery. So let's take a brief look at principle 1. The family has a crucial role to play in a loved one's recovery. We know that every family member plays a role, and they're either contributing to things getting better or contributing to things getting worse. And this principle teaches family members how to make sure that the role they play is a positive one. So we start with the BALM 7 C's, and we have 7 slides on those C's. We're not going into those tonight. This is just a little, either you could say it's a teaser or a review, depending on if you know the BALM. The first C, you didn't cause your loved one's use disorder. Number 2, you can't control it. And number 3, you cannot cure it. Number 4, you can contribute to your loved one's recovery. Number 5, you're connected to your loved one on a level deeper than their struggle. Number 6, you can learn to communicate effectively. And number 7, you are always at choice. Different people have a favorite C. I know that number 4 really speaks to some people. Oh, you mean I can contribute? I thought this was their problem. Part of the attitudinal shift is coming to the realization this is our problem as a family, and we solve it together, not by pushing members of the family out. Number 5 speaks to other people. You're connected to your struggling loved one on a level deeper than their struggle. It's heart to heart. It's not like, oh, they're an addict. No, they are a human being with an addiction, with a use disorder, with a mental health challenge. And you're connected to them through the bonds of love. And you can learn how to communicate effectively with a loved one who's struggling. This is one of the most powerful things that we teach in the BALM through the 7 steps to be a loving mirror. And finally, you are always at choice. We also have in principle 1, see if you remember these, the 5 tips. Drop expectations, focus on yourself, be a loving mirror, set boundaries, and get support. This is really the overview of the entire BALM program. Until we're willing to stop expecting things to be different than they are, we can't work with what we've got and move forward. As long as we're focusing on them and not on ourselves, we can't be helpful, because if we're all upset and our tension is out there, we can't find the peace and the calm to be able to think rationally and clearly. Be a loving mirror. This is something that every Balmer learns how to do. It's conversational. Deeper than that, it's a way of being. Set boundaries. Boundaries we set on ourselves. And get support. Support is critical. And just like loved ones will often say, I don't need any help, I can do this. Family members have been known to do that too. If you find that you're doing that, you may want to think about it and see where your best support you can find your best support. Another thing we say that's very important, and this is an attitudinal shift for many families who think, oh, it's not that bad yet, I don't have to get involved. Oh, it's just, it's not my business. The best prevention is early intervention. What does that mean? Some people say that prevention happens before a loved one starts using. We say that the minute you find out that there's a problem and that there's a solution that you can contribute to, that's early intervention. That's the point at which you begin to intervene. And the BALM shows you many different ways that you can do that. So we've just flown through principle 1. And of course, there's so much detail and so much to learn that changes and shifts a person in the first principle. But now it's time for principle 2. Change happens in stages. And in this principle, we look at creating your attitudinal shift. We look at how love lights the path to family recovery and how conversations can motivate others. Remember the four principles of the attitudinal shift. You have a role to play. Your loved one can change, and so can you. That's the one we're on now. Let go of control and be their best chance. You know, we say that be a loving mirror is what we're all about. And each word in this statement has meaning. To be is a state of being. It involves the breath. It's in each moment. It transcends the ego. It transcends doing. It's really what you are. And loving. To be loving is to be a loving person, to exhibit dignity and respect, to take personal responsibility, to not overprotect, to not hover, to not enable. And of course, a mirror is clear and authentic, presents the facts. It doesn't judge, it's calm. It provides simple reflection without embellishment. This is a person practicing BALM once they're practicing BALM. When you come into the BALM program, you may not feel that level of personal peace, but it is what will happen. And love plays a very important role. So you may say, why is it about love? Well, your love is what motivates you to help your relative or friend, and your loving conversations can motivate them to make change in their lives. We say that as Balmers, we walk the loving path to recovery, that peace, loving kindness, patience, dignity, respect, and egoless curiosity are the characteristics of this path. And of course, when you study the BALM in depth, you get a lot more about each of these things and how to bring them about in your life. And chapters 1 through 4 explain this path powerfully. What's important to know for now is that the family can have a real impact on a loved one's choices. It's important to have a model of change, and we're going to go over that model in a moment. And that is Prochaska's change model, also known as the trans-theoretical model of change. Motivational interviewing and BALM are key elements of the work going forward. Prochaska and DiClemente came up with these 6 stages of change for anyone trying to break a habit. And in the BALM, we adapted them to the 6 stages of change for families. And you can find those stages of change right here. This is a very short version of the stages of change. And you can find the full version in our book, the BALM, the Loving Path. Create Your Attitudinal Shift is chapter 6, and it goes through, it's from page 86 through 112, and it talks about how to create your attitudinal shift. And the stages of change for families are in there. You know, when you first find out that a loved one has problems, the most natural thing to do is deny it. That couldn't be. And it's not my fault, is how it may look. And you may say about him or her, she's a bad seed. He's ungrateful. She just needs to grow up. And about your family, this is a good family. These things don't happen to us. And so on and so forth. Another key part of this attitudinal shift is really moving from pre-contemplation or denial through ambivalence into planning and action and maintenance. And families, as well as loved ones, go through these changes. Let me ask you a question. You don't have to say anything out loud. We'll be talking afterwards. How do you view your loved one? Do you see them as bad, as pathetic, as amazing? And how long have you held that view? Do you think it's their problem and they better solve it? Well, what if you were to view them through the eyes of compassion? How would that change the way you think about them, talk about them, and behave in relationship with them? This work empowers us to do just that. And if you're not already doing so, when might be the right time for you to change your view of your loved one? So take a moment to consider this. So how do you help a loved one change? And again, you'll learn this in great depth, but there are things you can do at each stage of change. You can study and practice the 7 steps. There's a class that's available once you've taken the 12 principles. You can write a loving letter describing the behaviors you've seen. You can use motivational interview, help rather than enable. You can get a coach. You can get your loved one a coach. You can set up a formal intervention. And ask yourself, what do I do in a loving way that contributes to my loved one's recovery rather than their struggles? And what more would I like to learn about how to help than enable? These are the questions that we ask and answer in our work in the BALM. It's critical as you move forward to stay out of denial. You know that old saying, denial's not just a river in Egypt. Well, it isn't. It's a place that we often go to when it's just too difficult to look reality in the eye. But in the BALM, we teach you how to look reality in the eye and how to gently face it, how to document the facts, how to share them with your loved one. We invite you to live from a quiet place within you so that you can have a meaningful conversation and relationship with your loved one again. And you'll learn new conversational tools that'll help you model dignity and respect, listening non-judgmentally, empathizing, asking open-ended, curious questions, and reflecting back what they say. This is all about allowing them to discover their own answers, see their own challenges, and come up with the idea of why and when to change. You know, motivational interviewing is an old tool. We didn't come up with it, but we use it in the BALM. And when I spoke with one of the authors, Dr. Miller, I guess when I was writing the book, we found that we had a lot in common. The spirit of motivational interviewing is love. It's not the techniques. You will learn techniques of motivational interviewing in the BALM, but it's the spirit, the love with which you utilize it that helps you to impact your loved one's motivation. The way that you ask questions and listen and reflect back your loved one's answers can help reduce their ambivalence and resistance. And motivational interviewing, more than anything else, is about helping someone move from ambivalence to clarity. It's about helping them see themselves as the driver of their own change. And we don't do that by trying to manipulate or get them to give us the answers we want. We do it by having sincere, curious, open-ended conversations that take them deeper into themselves. One of the first skills and tools you'll learn in motivational interviewing is OARS, open-ended questions, affirmations, reflective listening, and summarizing. If you're an old Balmer, you know this, and if you're new, you'll be learning all about it. So there are motivational tasks that are based on the stages of change. When someone's in pre-contemplation, meaning they don't think there's a problem, you want to raise some doubt about that. You want to increase their perception of risks. When they're in contemplation, meaning they're ambivalent, you want to explore their ambivalence and not take sides, because if you go on one side, that may push them to the other side. So that's principle 2, our whirlwind through principle 2 and our attitudinal shift that we're creating and that you will grow into quite miraculously as you work the BALM program. In BALM principle 3, we learned that it's important to let go without giving up or giving in. We call it a family member's guide to getting calm enough to lovingly detach. So what are we detaching from? In the BALM, we are not detaching from our loved one. We're detaching from our determination to have it our way. We let go of obsessing and fear of needing things to turn out in a certain way and control. Remember, calm is power and upset is weakness. Don't give up on your loved one. Work the BALM program, learn what works and what doesn't, and live a life of inner peace. You'll learn all about flooding in Principle 3. It's a physiological reaction where the blood leaves your brain and goes into your feet. Ever have that feeling? It's very common for family members and persons with use disorders. We learn how to use the breath and other tools to bring ourselves back to center and back to a calm, peaceful way of life. In Principle 3, you learn a whole menu of options: meditation, deep breathing. You learn how to train yourself to de-escalate from flooding, how to breathe through each moment, focus on the task at hand, breathe through transitions, and present moment awareness. Principle 3 in a nutshell. And now let's go on to Principle 4 of your attitudinal shift, how to be your loved one's best chance at recovery. You know, there are obstacles to our being our loved one's best chance. One is we just don't know enough. Another is being unwilling to make learning more a priority, or unwilling to see and accept our own power in the process. Many of us have heard that we're powerless to help. We're not powerless to help, but there are things that can help, things that can't help, and we need to know which are which and to pursue that which we want to achieve. We learn flooding, definitely. Upset, can't think, can't speak. Enabling. We define enabling as anything you do that helps your loved one, makes it easier for them to get their substance or behavior of choice. That's enabling. And denial is just seeing the facts in front of you and it's like they're not there. You cannot see them. We really, the BALM is filled with denial busters. And we will work with you on helping you to get into truth and reality about what's happening in your household and how to help. We invite you to see obstacles as stepping stones, to be prepared for flooding, be prepared for reactivity, and be prepared for your loved one to have a reoccurrence. Remember to breathe. Allow your mind to get still and respond rather than react. You'll be learning how to do this all the way through the first 4 principles, and this is all in preparation for the 7 steps. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind, and that's primary work as a balmer. And when connection and love become more important than being right, denial becomes a thing of the past. Conversations become authentic and loving, and peace and fulfillment will make their way back into your family life. We invite you to never underestimate the insidious nature of substance use disorder. Never underestimate the power of the hijacked brain to show up in your loved one. And also never underestimate your own resilience. You know, whether your loved one has been in treatment, is using, is currently in recovery, whether they've gone to treatment, they're in treatment, about to go to treatment, the family's job is pretty much the same: to have a loving presence, to quietly and objectively observe, what you see and hear, to share facts without judgment, to become educated on SUD, mental health, and recovery. When before treatment, you team with skilled professionals and guides, and you research treatment centers and look for the right moment to intervene. And your goals are to get your life back and help your loved one attain recovery. After treatment, all of these, you're researching options for after treatment. You're teaming with your professionals and those of your loved one to help him or her transition to their next steps. And your goals are to get your life back and help your loved one sustain recovery. So there's really not a whole lot that we have to learn differently wherever our loved one is. Family recovery remains the same. So in Principle 4, we learn how to help without enabling, how to be present without hovering, how to stick to agreements, partner with professionals, use leverage, and set boundaries you will stick to. And believe me, there's a lot to this, and you will learn every bit of it. And remember, regardless of your loved one's choices, you really do deserve to live your life in peace. And that's why after Principle 4, our students go on to learn the 7 steps, starting with steps 1, 2, and 3. Step 1, be the peace you wish to see in the world. Step 2, observe the world around you objectively. Step 3, become aware of your inner emotional landscape without judgment. We call these the inner transformation steps. And then there's 4 through 7. Document what you see and hear, script a loving conversation, have a loving conversation, and if necessary, set a boundary. So how do you use BALM? We invite you to practice your calming techniques as often as possible. Deep breathing or mindfulness 3 times a day and as needed, breathing through transitions, staying focused on the task at hand. All of these will be very familiar to you once you go through this program. And train yourself to quickly recognize flooding, know the signs, and practice getting yourself out of it. And understand that these 2 skills, inner calm and recognizing flooding, are foundational to all of the work you will do. To be your loved one's best chance at recovery, stay out of denial. Trust your eyes and ears rather than their lies. Understand enabling, stop doing it. Make conscious decisions about your behavior. Apply helping behaviors. Be a loving mirror. Learn how to set and stick to boundaries and get outside help when what you're doing is not working. You may find that you'd like to learn these 12 principles. Perhaps you've learned them, but you'd like a refresher. If you're currently in the BALM program, that refresher is right there in your 12 principles, but maybe you'd like to have a weekend. Or if you don't have the BALM anymore, maybe you'd like to get your own copy of the 12 principles on demand. So you can do this if you want the 12 principles on demand. It's 12 little cubes. You know how we have those cubes in our online program? They look like squares. And each principle has the full lesson, snippets of the entire lesson, of all the pieces of it. And also 7 to 10 interviews that are important for that principle. So you can get that, or come to our upcoming 12 principles 3-day deep dive online on March 8th to 10th. One or the other, it's $4.97. And if you're on this seminar live and you place your order by Friday, you get a 20% discount for a total cost of $3.97 each. You may want one, you may want the other, you may want both, you may not want either, but we're putting the offer out because we know how much it's helped people. And I'd like to show you where to find it online. Let's see if I can do this for you. you can see it. So if you see our website, BALM Family Recovery, there's BALM for the whole family, and down here is the 12 Principles Retreat. And what I'll do is I will put this in the chat so that you can get it and you can order it, whatever you're interested in, right online. Or you can say, I don't know if I'm interested in anything, but I'd like to have a conversation with Bev, and my phone number's in there. So we can have a conversation. And there you go. So that's in the chat, and you can just get your own copy of it or just look at it online. Okay. Well, it's really good to see all of you. Next week, we'll be having a webinar on the professional program. That'll be on Tuesday evening. Monday evening, there will be an alumni group for all of our coaches. Tuesday evening, we'll have the intro to the professional training program. And Wednesday evening, we're back to having an interview with a professional. So we hope we will see you one or all of those evenings. And in the meantime, everybody, remember, be a loving mirror. Bye.